Today we understand that genes are the carriers of hereditary information. For our purposes today, we must understand that the biochemical mechanism which replicates and passes on genes is not perfect. Mutations and other changes can creep in, and so a gene may ultimately be expressed in one or more forms, and these variations on the theme of the gene are called alleles. So, for example, in eye coloring, one has a gene variation which triggers brown color and one which triggers the color blue. Now, in diploid organisms, this is what most higher life forms are, including us, genes always exist in pairs called genotypes. These genotypes exist at particular loci on a chromosome in the long string which makes up the genome which describes us. Now, the genotypes, depending upon whether the gene types are the same or different, are classified as homozygous, meaning that the two alleles are the same, or heterozygous, that is, the alleles in the pair are different. This turns out to be critical in determining characteristics that emerge and are passed on. Let us immediately focus on a setting where a particular gene has two variants, two alleles. So let's say we call the alleles, cleverly, uppercase A and lowercase a. The setting we are going to be interested in is the one where uppercase A is the dominant allele. Now, what it means is the following. The genotypes that are formed by pairing up these alleles are three in number. Uppercase A and uppercase A together, an uppercase A and a lowercase a. The order does not matter, so we could just as well say lowercase a, uppercase A is the same thing, and two lowercase a alleles. In the case of eye coloring, the brown gene, uppercase A, is dominant. And what that means is that an individual with genotype with two uppercase A's has brown eyes. It also means that an individual with a heterozygous genotype with an uppercase A and a lowercase a also has brown eyes. But this individual is a carrier. They contain the blue eye coloring within their genotype, and they can pass it on to their progeny. Individuals with two lowercase a in the genotype will then have blue eyes. We will say that the blue color is recessive. Now, this is a pretty harmless variant, but occasionally the recessive gene is not nearly so harmless and can lead to a fatal disease. An example is that of sickle cell anemia. The details are not important to the biochemistry, and the picture I've shown you on the screen is just to illustrate that we now understand the mechanism by which a genetic element, a gene, is modified to create a variant. In this case, a mutant variant which leads to a disease, sickle cell anemia. The second picture on your right deals with the disease called Tay Sachs. It's a neurodegenerative disease, and its change occurs in a particular location on the chromosome at chromosome 15. And again, the details are not important for our purposes, no less because the details of the biochemistry are now hitting about my limits of my knowledge of that subject. But before we go on, it'll be good to see how such mutations lead to macroscopic changes which affect the individual. On your left, you see a visualization of sickle cell anemia, which is a blood cell disease. Normal red blood cells are disc-shaped. They look like donuts. They are the carriers of oxygen. They tumble freely through your blood vessels because they are shaped like discs. They go tuck, 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 rattle right through. But the mutant variation, which leads to sickle cell anemia, leaves your blood cells which look like sickles or crescents. The difficulty here is twofold. One, the absorption area available to a cell, which is in the form of a sickle, is much less, and therefore its oxygen carrying capacity is significantly decreased. And further, these crescents can hook up to cause chains, and these chains can cause clots with possibly fatal consequences to the organism. On your right, you'll say the consequences of visualization of Tay Sachs disease is a degenerative neural disease which causes a degeneration of neural tissue and ultimately a breakdown of the organism. So this is the setting that we have in mind. A gene which appears, let's say, in two variants, two alleles, one of which is dominant, we'll call that cap A, uppercase A, one of which is recessive and lethal, lowercase a. Our interest is in how such genes evolve and propagate through the generations.